22,000 square feet, 30 rooms, a private zoo. By the end of the night, you'll understand why some who lived here called it something nobody expects: a cult. What was locked inside 3,000 scrapbooks, nobody outside the inner circle was ever allowed to see. Why did women who lived here, years apart, describe this exact same house the exact same way? What actually happened at one 2008 party that ended up naming the owner in a federal lawsuit? By the end, you'll know all three. It starts with a phone call. You get the call on a Tuesday. A woman with a clipped, professional voice tells you the party starts at 9. Dress code, sharp, but nothing too tight through the shoulders. You don't ask questions. Nobody asks questions. You just say yes. Because this isn't just any party. This is the Playboy Mansion, 22,000 square feet, 30 rooms, tucked behind the gates of Holmby Hills, Los Angeles. And tonight, you're on the list. You pull up the driveway just after dark. Stone lions guard the entrance. The house looks like a Gothic fairy tale, built in 1927 for a department store heir. Hugh Hefner bought it in 1971 for just over $1 million. At the time, it was the most expensive residential deal in LA history. By then, Hefner wasn't just a rich man buying a mansion. He was the most famous name in American media, the guy who'd built a magazine into an empire around his own image. This house wasn't somewhere he lived. It was a stage he built for himself. You step out of the car, and the first thing you hear isn't music. It's a bird call. You look up and see a peacock, pure white, feathers dragging across the lawn. This place has its own zoo license. Somewhere past the trees, there are monkeys. The grounds keep unfolding. A koi pond fed by an artificial stream. A grotto carved into rock. Waterfalls spilling into a pool lit neon blue. A tennis court with its own stone bar. Somewhere behind the game house sits a full pipe organ, the kind you'd expect in a cathedral. 70 to 80 people work here full-time. Butlers, chefs, zookeepers, security who watch you before you even know they're watching. Inside, the chandeliers are older than your parents. The staircase curves up into shadow, and everywhere there are women. Bunnies in silk, laughing a beat too loud, moving like they've rehearsed the choreography of the room, because in a way, they have. You get a drink placed in your hand before you ask for one. Everyone here is beautiful, and everyone here is watching everyone else. Then you see him, Hefner, in the red silk smoking jacket, holding court near the fireplace, exactly the way you'd imagine. Magnetic in that practiced way. Like a man who's been the center of every room for 50 straight years. You think, this is it. This is the fantasy everyone talks about. But the longer you stay, the more you start to notice the rules underneath the glamour. The bunnies you're mingling with live here under a curfew. Uniforms, diets, grooming standards written down somewhere you'll never see. Former girlfriends have said they weren't even allowed red lipstick or haircut too short. An allowance instead of a real income. Home by a set hour. Leave without permission, the accounts say. And you risked losing your room, your allowance, your place in the group entirely. And certain nights aren't like this one. Wednesdays and Fridays were known, informally, as club nights. Girlfriends were required to participate in staged encounters after the party wound down. One former girlfriend, Holly Madison, later described being offered a sedative on her very first night here, something Hefner reportedly called a thigh opener. She was in her early 20s. He was in his 70s. She'd later write that she felt trapped in a system built to keep her compliant. Brought in, groomed, gradually cut off from friends and family. You start to understand why some of the women who lived here, years later, used a specific word to describe it. Not resort, not paradise. Cult-like, strict rules. A single man demanding loyalty. Cameras that saw more than anyone let on. A former valet confirmed what several girlfriends had already said, that some encounters here were filmed, Hefner directing from the sidelines. Women described feeling less like guests and more like cast members in a show they never auditioned for. Somebody mentions, almost casually, that there's a wing of the estate nobody outside the inner circle has ever seen. A private archive. Not the magazine photos, something else. Scrapbooks. Thousands of them. Decades later, Hefner's own widow would go public with what's inside. Roughly 3,000 scrapbooks and private journals, dating back to the 1960s. She'd stand at a press conference and say she was worried some of the images involved girls who were too young, at the time, to have ever consented. The foundation controlling the archive disputed her account. No evidence has been made public either way. But the accusation made headlines everywhere, nearly a decade after Hefner's death. Later, a woman near the pool tells you about a party here in 2008. A comedian was accused, years afterward, of drugging a 17-year-old at that very party. And Hefner himself was named in the lawsuit that followed. The case never went to criminal trial, but the allegation stuck to this house permanently. She's not the only one with a story like this. Over the years, more than a dozen women have come forward publicly with accounts of coercion or manipulation. Others have defended Hefner fiercely, insisting the lifestyle was fully consensual. Both versions exist in the public record. You start to realize the mansion runs on two timelines at once. The one happening right now, champagne, laughter, a live band, and the one underneath it, decades deep, made of lawsuits and secrets that take years to surface. Around 2 a.m., you decide to leave. You pass the guest house, repainted with murals layered like a shrine to every version of glamour this place ever manufactured. The white peacock is asleep now, folded up on the grass like nothing happened. You get in your car and look back at the house. All those windows lit gold. All those staff still working at 2 a.m. All those rules nobody wrote down, but everybody followed. You'll tell people you went to the Playboy Mansion. You won't tell them everything you noticed. Because that's the thing about paradise built by one man's rules. From the outside, it looks like freedom. From the inside, at 2 a.m., it looks like something else entirely. In 2016, Hefner sold the mansion for a reported $100 million to the businessman next door, on one condition. He got to keep living there, in his own bedroom, for the rest of his life, for $1 a year. And Hugh Hefner is gone now. Died right there in 2017, at 91, in the same house he never really let anyone leave. The mansion still stands. A legal covenant means it can never be torn down, which means, in a strange way, it's still exactly what it always was. A monument. Half to freedom. Half to everything freedom cost the people who lived inside it. If you want more stories like this, subscribe to Dark Dominion for more.